Saturday, 28th of August, 2010. Toyota Stadium, Sharks, Titans. For just 5 minutes gone, Titans have the ball approaching halfway. Fourth tackle, a quick play the ball, and a shift to the right is on. Hooker, Nathan Friend gives it to prop Luke Bailey. Pass on to Ashley Harrison, the lock, and gives it further right to halfback Scott Prince. Prince skips across the field, double pumps and fires a cutout pass looking for barnstorming centre Clinton Torpy. The ball finds grass, then a bounce, then the chest of a flying Luke Covell. Just 4 months prior, his career seemed all but over, having suffered a ruptured ACL in the Sharks' round 4 home win over the Eels. Now, in his farewell match, 50 metres of clear air lay between Covell and a dream start to the match and a dream finish to his career. Off he went. The self-appointed world's slowest winger was flying with the pass thrower Scott Prince and winger Jordan Atkins in hot pursuit. With 10 metres to go, he looked all but wrapped up that his big right arm had other ideas. Welcome to another episode of Classic Cronulla Chronicles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ET Stand podcast, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast where we let our talking do the football. Tonight, as we head into round 18 of the 2024 season and we travel to Coffs Harbour to play a home game against the Gold Coast Titans, we go back to, we could cover a match from our game or a classic game against the Titans at the venue. We'd like to try and do that, but that's only been a few years. 2021 was the first time we played up there. 2022 was a good win. 2022 was a bit of a scrappy win, but a win nonetheless. But this time we should go back to a period where there's a lot of Sharks players and Sharks legends on both sides of the ball in this one. 2010. Chris Kelly, welcome back for another start on this fun little side hustle I've got here, just trying to pit Boldo and failing dismally in the viewing numbers. But we know this is where the true fans come. Kelly, what are your thoughts or memories of 2010?
Yeah, 2010, very tough year. Most of these guys you probably wouldn't plug into a first grade team. We're obviously picking guys that, a bit of a scrappy squads here and there. I was kind of glad to kick off my new career in 2010, so I didn't really get too many games that season. So I didn't really care if I missed out or just listened on the radio and got the results. So a couple of highlights and a lot of lowlights is all I remember from 2010.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned I did the move away, change of career in 2010 as well, moved to Canberra. I know you were spending some time in another part of New South Wales that was close to there, and I missed quite a few matches as well. But I did attend this one. Were you at this one?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was one of the rare ones that I did attend. So remember going down to a sunny game and I see the Gold Coast play. And I'm sure we'll get into the team list and reasons why people wanted to go down and see this game go on.
You seem to have lost a little bit of you there for a second there, but yeah, there was obviously, we'll have a look at the team list in a sec and see that, yeah, there were some reasons on the other side of the fence with the Gold Coast as well as to why fans of the Sharks did want to go down and see this one. Looking at the form going into it, though, we were a horror 15th. So we only had one win, 4 losses going into it. I did go down to Melbourne the week before where we lost 24-4 to the Storm, who were playing for 0 points, having had all their points stripped following the salary cap cheating conviction, I suppose you call it, where they had their 07 and 09 premiership stripped, and the 2010 season were playing for 0. We did famously beat eventual grand finalists, the Roosters, 18-12 on a Friday night. I do remember that one. It was one of the only home games I made to that year as well, and we won that. The Roosters were in a bit of a slump, and we'll cover that at a later date because that's a good one there. That's I remember in that one the Roosters were up 12-6 at half time, had the opportunity to take the 2 early in the second half. Todd Carney, eventual Dally M medalist, decided to take the tap. They didn't convert. Sharks scored 2 late tries and win that one. But we were pumped at home the week before against the Warriors. We went down narrowly at Leichhardt. Those Warriors and Tigers games, unusually for me, I don't remember anything about those games. I was living out of town, out of state, and we were terrible. I didn't pay much attention to. While the Raiders 13-20 loss, that was my first, I suppose, home/away game living in Canberra. So I loved that. David Balderman did come down for that one. Another good friend, Bryn, came down for that too. And I think quite a night was had there. But a Trent Barrett field goal gave the Sharks the lead at halftime, and it all fell apart in the second half. So while the Titans, 5 on the trot, that was 5 wins in a row. They were sitting 4th. They had a good side. We'll have a look at it in a sec, but they do make mention of it in the coverage of this one, that they beat the Roosters on a Monday night. They beat the Cowboys, they beat the Eels, they beat the Warriors, they beat the Dragons. So the eventual premiers there, the Dastardly Dragons. So the Titans had a good side, and we were up against it going into this one. Do you remember anything about the form, I suppose, especially of the Titans in that era?
Yeah, I remember the Titans obviously making the semi-finals in the back end of the season, and obviously with a few astute signings they had at the time, they had a pretty good team. So one of the rare times the sort of Titans sort of finished towards the top end and made some semi-finals. I'm pretty sure that year, 2010, they made the semi-finals.
They did. Well, we'll see later on, but they actually finished top 4. I think that might be the only time in their history they did. They did make a prelim as well.
Yeah.
They went down to the Roosters in the prelim. As a home prelim too at Suncorp.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the Titans had a good side there. While we were pretty dismal. We'll have a look at the sides now and looking at those teams. So the Sharks, the back 3 was Gardner, Ferguson, and Covell. The centers, Dean Collis and Ben Pomeroy. The halves, Trent Barrett, Tim Smith. Front row, Kate Snowden, John Morris, Luke Douglas. Back row, number 17, Talima Tautai into the starting lineup for Grant Millington with Anthony Tupou and Paul Gallen at lock. Interestingly, Barrett was captain. The bench, Grant Millington, Adam Cuthbertson, Broderick Wright, and Paul Aiton, the coach. In his first year for the club, it was a bit of a half year for him. Shane Flanagan having replaced Ricky Stewart earlier that season. While for the Gold Coast, Will Zillman in number 5 was the fullback. The wingers, Kevin Gordon and Jordan Atkins. The centres, Steve Michaels and ex-Warrior Clinton Torpey. He was quite a player that I did admire during that period, a barnstorming centre. The halves, Matt Rogers, it still breaks my heart, and Scott Prince. The front row of Luke Bailey, Nathan Friend, and Matthew White, not the commentator or sports presenter for Sports Tonight. The back row of number 24, Greg Bird, a late inclusion. That's another one that breaks everyone's heart as Sharks fans. Mark Minicello and Ashley Harrison. The bench, Michael Henderson, Brad Myers, Bodine Thompson, and Mr. Future Premiership winner himself, Sam Tagatese, the coach, John Cartwright. So pretty handy side for the Titans there with I suppose, obviously Rogers in there. And I don't know, that back line doesn't do much for me outside of Clinton Torpey and maybe Will Zillman. Was pretty good in attack at the time. But they did make a top 4 finish. Do you have any, I suppose, comments on any of those guys? Obviously, you know Greg Bird well.
Yeah, obviously Greg Bird, like you said, it breaks our heart having Matt Rogers play in that team. So we had Greg Bird and Matt Rogers at the same time. You did allude that Sam Tagatese later came to us, but, they had their big signing, Luke Bailey. Remember, that was their massive marquee signing. So was Scott Prince. He was always on fire. The back line, remember Will Zillman was pretty good. I used to follow Kevin Gordon on Instagram for quite a while. He's gone a bit loose on the Gold Coast up there these days, doing his own little content sort of thing. So Steve Michaels was always a joke of a wrestling name. And yeah, like you said, Clinton Torpey, absolute warrior, cult hero, and ended up at the Titans. So Minicello was obviously another signing they grabbed out there, and Ashley Harrison from the Broncos. So big redhead Brad Myers. So yeah, they had a few cult players to start with, and obviously as a new franchise, they kind of needed a few big signings, a couple of big names, and maybe some fringe or cult heroes to sort of get other half on the fence sort of supporters to come across and support the Titans if you're newly to the coast. So yeah, and then obviously with our back line, there was the small Nathan Gardner, Blake Ferguson, which I'm sure you'll go into, and that 3 and 4 used to just give me nightmares seeing them on the team sheet. And most importantly, probably Cuthbertson with his offloads, and then Broderick Wright. We thought it was Matthew Wright. You see Wright on the name on the bench. You thought, how good Matthew Wright's going to play, and it was Broderick Wright. So bit of a flat time in 2010.
We didn't quite have the right/wrong trifecta with Matthew, Broderick, and Jono all playing at the same time. I think we signed Jono Wright at the start of 2013, and Matthew Wright departed just prior to that. But we did have fair periods there where we had both Broderick and Matthew in the mix. But you're right, Dean Collis signed from the Tigers, injury prone, had good raps, but just never really hit. He was similar size and shape and ability to Pomeroy, I suppose. They're both almost identical in there. Maybe Pomeroy had a few more drops, but Collis was then replaced by your favourite Ashford a year or so later. Whilst, looking at it, back to just one more thing on the Titans. I forgot it. Kevin Gordon, you're right. I think he scored four tries on debut on a Friday night. I think it was a Friday night game. I vaguely remember from that era. So good to hear that he's living the Gold Coast lifestyle. But our backline wasn't great. The halves as well, Barrett and Smith, never really maybe look good if that was about for Barrett 10 years prior and for Smith maybe 5 years prior. Was it 05 rookie of the year that he was? So that would have been nice if they were in their prime. Franco and I alluded to about a month ago when we were doing a show that we could probably name multiple lineups of players that if you had them in their prime, they'd win multiple premierships for you. You've got guys over the years we've signed, Tony Williams, Trent Hodkinson and the like, but Daniel Mortimer, but we tend to get them at the not the peak of their powers. So we'll move on to the events of the match itself. So as I alluded to in my opening monologue, Covell had a dream start and he was never the fastest winger. This is dead set. Absolutely the longest try that he's ever scored. Most of them were, we'll talk about it in more depth later in the talking points, but most of them are caught bombs or burries over from close range. But have a look at this one and take your hat off to the end. And for our Spotify listeners, we'll go back to, sorry, there's a bit of a issue there from me first time. We're trying to put a bit of video content in here. So we're playing here. So here we go. Bailey gives it on to Harrison, who gives it on to Prince, who's done the skip across, intercepted off the bounce by Covell. And here he is. And I thought at this point here, he was absolutely wrapped up. Big right fend, gets rid of Prince coming across. Pomeroy there to celebrate. And the first try to leaping Luke Covell, in that case, diving Luke Covell. Do you remember that one? I distinctly remember watching that one. I think I was standing on Beer Hill for this one. So I was jumping up and getting very excited on that one.
Yeah, I think if fans, if you only listen through Spotify, jump on and have a look at the video because you'd be shocked to see Luke Covell at top gear, only 40 metres out and beating everyone to the try line. So just go and have a watch of the highlight and you'll be shocked sort of short burst of speed. So
yeah, I haven't watched that since seeing it live, and I vaguely remember. Well, my memory of it, I suppose, a few beers deep, was of him ducking and weaving and doing more of that. But he did, I suppose, he did score. He ran about 48 meters and had a bit of work to do at the end there. But it was a good start to the Sharks against the high flying Titans. Shortly after that, there was a really good piece of play from Paul Gallen as we put the video onto that one. It was finished by Nathan Gardner in the 16th minute to put us 12 up. And here we go. We've got a bit of an issue with our videos here that for some reason they're playing before I'm putting them up. So I'll just rewind that now and we'll hit play. So here we are. Ferguson with some good work gives it off to Barrett, who tips it backwards. Maybe the bunker would take it off these days. Gallen, there he is, beating three defenders, turns it back inside, and Gardner. So here's the replay here. Turns it back. Gardner runs the last 10 metres untouched to score under the posts. Good way to go up. And it was a bit of razzle-dazzle for a side that was pretty dour in that era, apart from Nathan Gardner, really. Looking at that, any comments there?
Yeah, it must have been a call from obviously from Gardner out to Gallen because you wouldn't see Gallen too many times and throw back an one-arm offload that sort of just, I don't know if it was actually going to anyone, but like I said, he must have made a call because there's no way he would have done that kind of pass. He's normally just tuck under and go himself and take the tackle. So a bit of razzle-dazzle to start the game.
Well, Gallen was very razzle-dazzling in this match, and we'll see it shortly afterwards too, with a try that he does score and a try that he sets up as well for Luke Douglas with more offload. And that you're right, though. I remember Gallen being more the controlled offloader or just the tuck it under the arm and go, but that may be the following 10 to 12 years of his career that we saw rather than this one where he was a bit more enterprising in his play midway through his career. On that, Blake Ferguson saves a try right here, and in commentary, I'm not sure what's going on with these videos. They're all starting right at the end there, so we'll have to fix that up. But as we look here, the Titans swing it left. So Prince giving it. So a couple of decoy runners out the back to Rogers. Fires onto Kevin Gordon, and Ferguson stayed on his wing and put him into touch. And they were commenting there about how. Oops, I'll get the slides back on again. Commenting about how Ferguson had officially signed with the Raiders during the week, and the Sharks fans wouldn't exactly be cheering him and his departure. When we played the Bulldogs earlier in the year against the Central Coast, I distinctly remember that one because that was when it all blew up, and there was talk about, hey, we should drop him because that's where he came out in the media and said, I'm not staying with the Sharks. They're never going to win a comp. I'm going to go to Canberra. Joke's on him. Canberra still haven't won a comp. Ferguson did eventually win a comp in, what was that, 2018 with the Roosters? So, yeah, we beat him there, but it was finally, pen to paper was put. There was some, I remember rumours at the time that the change of coach and Flanagan may have been able to keep him, but it didn't happen, unfortunately, given we saw how Ferguson's career went on. I'm not going to go into great detail of the 2011 side yet of what Franco's favourite juniors would have been kept out of the side if Ferguson stayed, but I comfortably believe that Ferguson would have been a mainstay in our back line for probably his entire career if he did stay. So anyway, good piece of play by Ferguson there. But the Titans scored shortly after that with a try. Here we go. I think we're okay. Playing the ball there. Gives it to Rogers, who puts a left field, crossfield kick in between the goalposts and the right touch line, taken by interchange second row Bodine Thompson over Ben Pomeroy to score. And the third try is given, all-important third try to the Titans. But shortly after that, Gallen hits back with, so I'll just pause it here while it's loading to prevent the issue we had previously. And here we go. So play the ball. Gallen just darting out and
so that's better.
Yeah, dummy and score. And Covell nails the conversion. What I did like then, it's relevant, is Gallen did more running out of dummy half there than I think Brayley has in the last 8 weeks for a 2024 relevant spin. Just more of that. It was a pretty quick play of the ball by like Cade Snowden there, and Gallen just picked it up and exposed him. Obviously different body shape to Brayley, but Brayley run the ball more. Thoughts on those two tries?
Yeah, obviously that would have killed Franco, seeing that we didn't have a leaping coach at the time and try and work out. He's a big advocate to have a leaping or a jumping coach to stop sort of those kind of crossfield bombs and tries. But, you know, that was the sort of time where blokes just used to stand there and try and create a guard of honour around their winger, and if you didn't jump for the ball, then someone else was going to get it. So, but yeah, the Gallen one's very, like I said, the second try to Gardner where Gallen used to just take the ball and go, nah, stuff it. I don't care if there's four guys in front of him going to go. So I'm glad we got to see that in the game, that sort of style that he had. But you're right, you know, that sort of looking for it. I know a young kid on the Tigers the other week did the same thing, just heads up football, picked it up and ran. The guys are backing away. So it's something I might try and watch Brayley on a little bit more, because I sort of see him as a really good tackler and a facilitator. But maybe a few sort of Gallen darts out of there. Maybe, you know, see Cam starting to do it a little bit more. He has got the right body shape to do it. So I'd like to see a few more darts. But yeah, I remember Gallen used to just, like I said, he'd get the ball in that position, go, I don't care, I'm taking it. I don't care what set play is on, I'm just going to go.
Yeah, it's that eyes up as we digress a little bit. We'll talk more in our Tuesday night shows and our debriefs as we do. But here we are filming between the Bulldogs loss in Golden Point 2024 and the Titans match on the Central Coast. Sorry, Gold Coast. Not Coffs Coast, Coffs Harbour. Third time lucky this Friday night. And being at the game the other night, it was a couple of times where Nico, I suppose, missed out on not having. Usually he's good at eyes up for ball, and that's probably too much that way early on in his time with us in 2022. The other night, there was 2 occasions where I reckon if he showed and goed, he was straight through, and instead he was setting for the next play. Brayley very much seemed to be the same. It seemed like we were kind of very rigid. So Gallen, great at the eyes up play. He also was great at a fourth tackle settler, which would infuriate us all when we're all yelling swing it. But that was some enterprising play from Gallen there. So we went to the break 18 points to 6 up. Despite the third try being conceded. Now we move into the second half, and this was a bizarre try. We'll try and get the full replay here. So Bodine Thompson scored his second in the 49th, and this one, it goes through quite a few hands. I'm just pausing it again to get the full replay here. So you'll see, friend out of dummy half, goes right. Bit of an ordering kick this by, was that Prince somehow kept in by the winger, flicked back by Torpy. Thompson's got it, gives it, he skips out of a tackle and then goes short side, one-hander pass out the back. They're going further left. I think we're through about 5 sets of hands by this stage. Ashley Harrison has it, turns it back into Rogers, who just settles, left boot, crossfield kick. Bodine Thompson over the top of, who was that? Covell, actually, our left winger. And Thompson has his second. And the Titans are back in it. They nail the sideline conversion, and it's 24-12, and we're starting to get a bit nervous, us Sharks fans. That was a bit of Harlem Globetrotter style play there. 18-12, sorry, was the score.
I don't know who, because Covell was standing up at sort of the end of that replay then, so I'm assuming it was his senator was sort of left hanging there. Obviously, Gardner wasn't tall enough to fuse any kind of bombs at that stage, so...
sorry, might not have been Covell. It was possibly Collis. Oh, no, Pomeroy. Pomeroy was the left singer.
Yeah, maybe. But tall enough to defuse those kind of situations. But, that's the kind of things we got used to playing the Titans at this point of their new career of playing the Cronulla Sharks. Obviously, you remember their debut game. We were scoring a try using the butt, the ball. I'll never forget it. And obviously, I can't remember the winger's name. I'm sure you will. The miracle try with the kick towards the corner of where we sit in the ET stand. He's picked it up on his hip. It should have bounced into about the down Captain Cook Drive, if not onto Woolware Golf Course, and he's picked it up on his hip and scored in the corner.
That was in 2011. Was that David Mead? It was David Mead, I think, that one, 2011, when we were...
it was,
yeah.
I can see him. I just can't remember the name right now, but it was definitely... Yeah, if you go and see that replay where the ball should just, like I said, go 20 metres into touch and it just catches one bounce onto his hip and scores. It's just...
and that's right, it was on his hip, right hip, just trying to, kind of rein it in, and he did somehow miraculously and scored. And I think that was either Matt Sealer, put him 8 points ahead, and that just killed us. I'll talk about the record against the Titans on the Tuesday show, but it's good overall, but the losses we've had against them have been frustrating. At the start they had the wood on us, and they were pretty feisty side with Greg Bird and the like in there too. But moving on, finally, so 18-12, the Sharks are up, and we're starting to feel nervous against the fourth placed side. And then here we go. So I was adding this one to the stage. Bit of a slow play the ball here. Gallen at dummy half, Smith, Jinx, a left foot grubber through, and Regather scores. Bit of eyes up footy again there. He got a bit of a lucky bounce. I think he almost put his foot on the ball and tripped over it, but it somehow ricocheted through the line. Regathered scored to get us back 12 points up. Covell, no problem with the extras. So that was 57th minute. So midway through the second half, Sharks in control again. And then there was a few late tries, so we sealed it here. And this was I was really looking to show you here with Gallen's play. As we load this one, I'll just pause that again. Sorry, we'll go back here so you can see the full play. So here we are, Tim Smith with the ball, centre field, 10 out. Luke Douglas, a dummy half, back inside from Barrett, and then it was a Gallen flick off the ground to Luke Douglas to dive through. So Luke Douglas, who would eventually become a Titan, earlier the following year would sign for the Titans out of nowhere, after it looked like we'd be keeping him and losing Cade Snowden scoring. The Titans did get a try in the very last minute through, I can't remember one of their wingers, Jordan Atkins. Jordan Atkins. Jordan Atkins to make it 30 points to 16. The goal kicker that night was Scott Prince, actually, not Matt Rogers, which is funny. Maybe Rogers had an injury that was plaguing him there. So as we roll through the talking points, Luke Covell, what a career. What's your favourite memory of Covell? I've got many, and I could talk all night about him, but do you have any standout memories?
You know what? That try is up there. There's obviously a few breaks he's made, things like that. I remember him trying his heart out for that kick from 45 out on the front of Peter Burns' stand and trying to convert it. Obviously, we still joke about it today. We're Anika at one of our post-Broncos matches, me out with the Covell and trying to get a photo and get a bit hands-on. So it's interesting to see his young daughter making Olympics this year. It makes us feel really old when you see his daughter's now competing in the Paris Olympics this year in skateboarding. So
good on her.
But just loved the guy. Like, just the massive boot on him. Like, yeah, he was probably one of the slowest out there, but tried so hard. We always had the name Leaping Luke Covell. So absolute cult hero for us during that period. We needed some highlights, and he provided most of them, which is kind of scary. But yeah, he was great club man. What a player. Another guy to retire on the Gold Coast. Like you said, Luke Covell. Oh no, sorry. Luke Douglas ended up at the Titans. He's now up at Yamba. So a lot of those guys sort of transition up that way and stay up there. So love the guy.
Think,
what was yours, Matty?
Darren Albert's up there too. I just know this from it was a Vossi episode. The fan, Darren Albert, of all ex-Sharks players, is an electrician at Gold Coast Airport, I believe. But yeah, Luke Covell does live up there.
Wow.
It's a bit of a Luke Covell love fest the last few weeks. We had a 2007 match against the Bulldogs last week that Boldo and I chatted about. We focused on Covell's goal kicking and him kicking 5 from 5 there. But Covell, loved him from the moment I saw him. Actually, I remember it was 2004. It was 2003, 2004. When he was playing for the Tigers on a Sunday afternoon match at Leichhardt, and they were talking about, I think it was one of his first grade games, they were talking about his goal kicking. And I was like, and we had Noddy as our kicker at the time, and I think he was out injured, and we maybe had Jared Anderson replacing him, and I was like, we had a terrible side, but goal kicking was always like, come on, just have someone who can kick goals. And Covell was just slotting them from everywhere, the reverse fade and all that stuff. And I'm like, who's this guy? He's a bit slow like Darryl Halligan, but he can kick it. And so we signed him. My first memory of him for the club was a home game against the Bulldogs in early 05 where he outleapt Haslam to score. And we put on quite a score there early. I think we led 20-0 early and then beat the reigning premiers 26-12. But as we said, a lot of his tries were leaping or were short range burrows over. But just his positional play was fantastic. Even he's admitted a lack of speed. He did play a bit of reserve grade for the Tigers before we signed him. He was in and out of first grade, played a bit of second row. He even got dropped for periods for us in 2006. I remember going to a game at Cogra and he carved up in reserve grade, scored 2 or 3 tries, kicked like 7 or 8 goals. Obviously, we got carved up by the Dragons in first grade that day, but it was like, oh, he's. I think maybe he was dropped for Nathan Merritt in the first grade side, and Merritt didn't really kick on for us. It was like Covell really found his feet with us, where Merritt was the opposite. But I'll have a look at Covell's stats. So overall, he played 153 first grade matches in total. That was 22 for the Tigers, 131 for us, 7 tries for the Tigers, 55 for us. That's an awful lot. Wow. It's basically a strike rate of 1 every 2 games almost. 55 tries, so 62 for his career, and had a kicking record for the Tigers. It was 57 for 72, so 79.17, while for us it was 364 from 491, so that was 74.13. So he had an overall kick percentage of 74.78. Very good. He got the competition top point score at least once, so that was 08. And he had a win percentage for the Sharks of 42.75. So he went through some periods of lackluster teams, not through any fault of his own, but he got to play finals football in 08. And so he played 131 games for us. And this was the only injury-affected season he had. As we said, he had that ACL injury. He looked gone for all money, then had Lars surgery back when that was a bit of a thing. I don't know. We'd maybe have to get Francis on to chat about why that's gone by the wayside.
I can't remember whether he was the first or the second player in the NRL to have it at the time done to come back so quick. I think there was one guy before him, maybe, was sort of like the test dummy, and he was the next guy. But I just want to point out as well to all you Sharks fans that still put up the spirit fingers, this guy was the OG. This is who we started the spirit fingers for, because it was such a dour time that he played in that we needed a lot of our goals. So he used to get right behind Covell and start the spirit fingers. So all you fans that still do the spirit fingers, I see a lot of them out there still when Nico's line up or even Trindle's line up a kick. Covell was the OG for the spirit fingers. So,
and to the guy that started the spirit fingers, you know who you are, Christian Hodgson. So, 83,000 or close to it doing it on grand final night. Pretty special. So Covell, absolutely the OG spirit finger guy. 08 was the standout there. And sorry, I'll rephrase that. 2005 as well, he played We played finals that year as well, bowing out to the Dragons in week 1 in Peachy's last game. So he
did attend that match.
Did kick 3 from 4 there. I attended that one too, unfortunately. But moving right along, this one isn't as fun, but we'll still acknowledge it. I know that Franco is a fan of Trent Barrett, and I suppose here he is, was pointed out by Boldo as well, looking at it, that here he is lapping up the crowd and everyone loving Trent Barrett. He played 2 seasons for us at the end of his career, has since gone on to have nothing to do with the club and beat us every time he coached us, really, which is very disappointing. But we'll have a look at his career. Signed to a bit of fanfare from Wigan, or the UK anyway, at the end of 2008 as we got rid of Brett Camorley, which is still I think at the time I supported the decision. In hindsight, definitely a terrible one. Camorley went on to take the Bulldogs to the prelim final, and they were only beaten by Jarryd Hayne. I was at that match, and 78,000 people there, and dominated the first half. And maybe you could say it was Camorley's lack of creativity at half that in the first half that meant them not get points, or Parramatta defended well. I know then Jarryd Hayne pressed the button and blew them away in the second half and made the grand final. I think whoever got through it would have lost to Melbourne the following week with the asterisks, but So we signed Trent Barrett instead, and we had a good start to 2009, and then it all went to poo. And then 2010 wasn't much better. So he played a total of, he did play for Wigan in the UK. For Cronulla, he had 36 starts, 5 tries, 3 field goals, and he had a total of 23 points, 11 wins, 25 losses for a 30.56% each win percentage, which, terrible. But given the company he was in and the sides he was in, probably not his fault. He did get us a few wins. He got a field goal in the win over North Queensland. So we came back from 18-0 down in 2010. I think it was John Morris that got the field goal to send it to Golden Point, and Trent Barrett got the winner in Golden Point, or one of vice versa. He got a field goal win as well against the Eels after a massive losing streak there. On a rainy night, and he also got a field goal against the Raiders in that match I was talking about earlier in 2010, just before this one, where we did end up losing. So responsible for a couple of wins there. Signed kind of as a halfback, I suppose, but he's more of I always thought of him more as a 5'8", really. I know he played halfback alongside Mundine in that dastardly Dragon side of the late 90s. Any thoughts on Trent Barrett?
Oh, look, like you said, he was sort of touted out by Ricky Stewart. I think that was the reason Camorley was moved on, because Ricky wanted his own sort of fingerprints, and it's either you get along with him as a halfback or you don't. So he brought in Trent and Tim Smith, which is, again, we thought was going to kick on, and it really didn't. I kind of put Trent Barrett in that Jack White mold, where a lot of media darlings have a lot of raps on the guy. A big guy can put on a bit of speed, but just, I don't know. Both of them, I just haven't got mad raps on. They play rep footy. Yeah. They've sort of played semi-finals. But they're not your hang your hat on your team on and can take you and drag you to a victory. So, obviously one field goal was we've talked about it on one of our other Chronicles against Parramatta, where it was the wedding night. So we got married on the night that he kicked that winning field goal. So that's the one memory I'll take with me. But I wasn't at the game, obviously. But it was a little too late for us. He was obviously out there, like you said. There's a few games where you've highlighted that we got victories, and he was quite trying, but he just wasn't that guy.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think speed fell away at the end. I don't know if you could call him a big game player either. Obviously, the Dragons had that, I suppose I'm going to say inverted commas, good team before they finally won it in 2010. I'd spoken about it. I didn't really rate them too much, but they always made the prelims. I suppose I talked up in the media. They had Gaznia, they had Cooper, they had all that stuff, and he didn't really take them from there. I do remember him having an absolute shocker in the Red V against the Sharks in 2006, which is the Lance Thompson first game against his old club game. And Trent Barrett, I think he threw 3 or 4 forward passes, put a high shot on, got put on report, kicked out in the full, just did all those things. And obviously, Lance Thompson scored the opening try, kicked the finish. The great late Lance Thompson kicked the final conversion as well in a 30 points to 12 win there. We hadn't beaten the Dragons since I think 2003 prior to that point. So anyway, so that was I suppose a favourite memory of Trent Barrett of him playing against us. So anyway, thanks Trent. Anyway, we farewelled him there. He played okay. He did a serviceable job there. Whilst we move on to this still heartache, but yeah, and it pained me so much to put him in that jersey. I'll put a picture of him in that jersey there. But I did have to. This was one reason. I think it's probably the only reason ever that I've gone along to Shark Park. Because this was mentioned before. I've gone along the Shark Park to see an opposition player play, and that's purely because of his connection to this club. I don't know if Preston's final game was ever met with fanfare, but this one was. Rogers had announced his retirement, and he was going to be going, I suppose, second last game of the regular season at Shark Park. So went along hoping to wish him well, but not see him go well. And he had 2 try assists there. He did tend to have quiet nights against us, although he did score a try against us in 2009. So there's a picture in his book. Actually, if you get his book, it's a good read. As a picture of him scoring I think it was a milestone try. I can't remember what it was, his 100th try. So anyway, against us. So yeah, Matt Rogers, we'll look at his stats in a sec, but obviously we know he is an absolute gun and a club legend. And for the Gold Coast, he played 07 through to, he played one game in 2011. He came back, he talks about it in his book, coming back on a, I suppose, match payments only contract to help him out with an injury cloud. And then he ended up breaking his foot in a game, I think, over in Auckland. And he famously played the second half with the broken foot because he knew that if he took his boot off or took the strapping off, he wouldn't play again. So he did. They lost, unfortunately, for him and the Titans. But so looking at his league career, 07 to 2011 with the Gold Coast, he played 77 matches, 32 tries, 59 from 79 with the boot for a 74.68 percentage goal kicking record, 2 field goals for a total of 248 points. While looking at his Sharks record, 95 to 01, 123 appearances, 75 tries, 406 goals off 568 attempts with a 71.48% percentage on the goal kicking, 1,112 points. No field goals. He kicked that field goal for Queensland. So, 107 tries total. So I think it was his 100th try he scored was against the Sharks, unfortunately. But thoughts of Matt Rogers around this era? He came back from rugby union as a 5'8" slash centre. So what might have been any comments there?
Yeah, obviously still hurts. You know, we're pushing 25 years on since he left the Sharks, and it's still one of those ones of what if, and I wish he could have stayed and kicked on. But obviously rugby come calling with big bags and a home World Cup in 2004. So he kind of left. But yeah, when he come back, you could understand him living on the Gold Coast and sort of wanting to stay there. But I really had high hopes he'd come back and watch pretty much all his games played with the Titans, just thinking what could have been if he walked back in and had a little swan song for us. So still one of my top 3 all times, and still love the bloke. So still a really nice guy. I'll come and give you any time of day. I've caught up with him since then and had a jersey sign and a quick chat about his career. So still hurts, but love the guy.
Yeah, I suppose in hindsight, good seeing, because I remember, I think just distinctly remember this one. I'm going, gee, Rogers had a quiet game. It's a shame for him, but good for us. But looking at the replay, he did have 2 try assists. He was, I suppose, just a very clever player. And I suppose there is the story, I've mentioned it before on the show, I'll mention it very briefly again, that he was deemed the best winger in the world. John Lang was never going to move him from there. Growing up playing, he played predominantly rugby union in his juniors, and was really moved from rugby union straight to the Sharks as a teenager and late teens, moving down from the Gold Coast / Brisbane area. I think he was going to boarding school in Brisbane. And as an inside centre, so essentially a 5'8", and he got put on the wing and got stuck there. And he wanted to move in, kept saying he wanted to move in. John Lang said, no. Chris Anderson said same thing. Rogers does give Chris Anderson a bit of a rap and says, well, at least he was honest with me and said, you're the best winger in the world. Why would I move you? So he moves on and then plays rugby union, has success there, comes back to league. By then, he admits in his book as well that he couldn't come back to the Shire. There was too many. There was a lot of reasons why he left too, with regards to, I suppose, his relationship with his dad and everything to do with his mum's passing, and a lot of other family reasons as to why he had to get out, and we can understand that. Moved on to rugby union, came back and played for the Titans, couldn't come back to the Sharks, and then Titans beat the Rabbitohs while John Lang was coaching there. John Lang comes into the dressing sheds afterwards and said, I suppose I was wrong. I should have moved you earlier after Rodgers had carved up at 5'8". And the thing that I love about Rodgers, and it is it's the greatest what if question, but he says, I think in an interview with Andy Raymond, maybe even one or two other podcasts too, he's there saying that he was absolutely seething inside going, you could have kept me at the Sharks if you just moved me into the centres or moved me into 5'8". But I suppose too, if you move me into 5'8", what becomes of Adam Dykes? I suppose Dykes did leave it in at the start of 2002. So yeah, I don't know what might have been. But anyway, he's a big fan of the club still. He was repping our awesome Reebok inspired jersey the other day. So he's a Shark 1, Titan 2, he said. So that's a win there, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and actually that was funny enough in 2021, when the Titans essentially knocked us out of the finals race. We had to beat Melbourne, or at least lose honourably, and the Titans had to lose to the Warriors, I think, for us to qualify. And during COVID, both matches were being played on the Gold Coast, and he was wearing a Sharks polo, and all these Gold Coast fans and people from the Gold Coast were going, "Who is this? He's our son." He's like, "No, you guys have no idea. Do you not have any memory of the 90s? Like, this is my blood. Like, I moved to the Gold Coast. I like you guys too, but the Sharks are my blood." So yeah, we love you, Matt. We always
Which is funny in rugby. You know, he played mostly fly half, but he also mostly played fullback. So there was no centre or wing in his rugby career. So it's quite odd. But like I said, it was the World Cup, playing in Sydney in a World Cup, and obviously a bit more money and travelling around overseas as a young fella. So
yeah, still unfortunately he was terribly injury prone. He'll admit that himself. And listening actually to Sats on the Rat on SEN a couple of weeks ago, that I think it was Sats or another, maybe Justin Harrison, rep union guy, called in and was critiquing Rodgers' kicking, because apparently he'd missed a few. Not that I followed rep union too much then or now, but missed a few key conversions or penalty goals that cost his teams there. So I always liked his goal kicking, but yeah, 70-odd% success rate as well. He did, one final point, he was a bit of trivia for you. He was the first player in the NRL or ARL/Super League at the time to use a kicking tee. Everyone else was still using sand. He was the first to use a kicking tee. And he was very critical of the Steeden ball. He said the Gilbert ball in rugby union, and also the Gilbert ball that was used for Super League, actually, was much easier to kick and kick accurately, where the Steeden just goes all over the place. But so that was the Rat. Looking at 2010, that team, Nathan Gardner scoring that try. It was a bit of fun in the team, but it was never going to go anywhere particularly high. We could have definitely fit Blake Ferguson back in there. We definitely could have fit a few other players like who we'd lost, Brett Carney at the end of or start of 2009 with the ankle break and the like. So it was a real fall from grace from the highs of 2008 through to the depths of 2009, 10, 11 before we signed Todd Carney at the start of 2012. I'm just racking my brain. Did any stars kind of shine through in that era? Or kind of,
no, going back looking at that lineup, what we put up for this game, like you know, as fans, you kind of look for the light at the end of the tunnel of who's going to come next and who we're going to sign. Imagine being someone like Paul Gallen, who stuck around for so long and playing in that team, just thinking, what have I got myself into? Like, it's I pretty much got to do 70% of the work in this team, because it's just like I said, most of those guys wouldn't make most first grade teams. So it's very, very tough times.
Yeah, you look at it. I know Ricky Latelli debuted late 2011, I think it was, or maybe a bit later even. So we're starting to get a few of those players to come through. Obviously, we signed Sam Tagatese mid 2011 from the Titans. He played against us on this occasion. But looking at Gardner, Ferguson, Collis, Pomeroy, Covell, a bit of a change of guard there. Barrett, Smith, no one. Snowden and Douglas, our star props, would move on early in 2011. That'd be announced. The craziness of the press conference they were about to have, announcing that they were extending Snowden, and then Nathan Tinkler called at the last minute what became his career. Luke Douglas disappearing to the Gold Coast as well. I suppose that opened the door. It did open the door for Bryce Gibbs and Andrew Fafita. So that's, I suppose, just talking out loud, that's where things started to change, I suppose. But looking at that, Anthony Tupou had a reasonable career with us through to 2015. I think he copped some unfair knocks there. He wasn't the same player that we did sign, but we eventually I thought he had a good 2015 season, including scoring a try against South in that semi-final, quarterfinal there. But you look at that bench of Millington, Cuthbertson, Broderick Wright, and Paul Layton. They were dour times, unfortunately. And looking at that season, I'll bring up the 2010 summary now.
The asterisks. Come on.
The asterisk seasons, right? So I don't know if we've got any Dragons fans watching. Shout out to you. We dislike you too if you are. But massive asterisks. Come on. Like, Storm were knocked out, I suppose. And that was a weird part. And I remember blowing up about it at the time, the fact that the Storm could continue to win and not accumulate points. So they were influencing the season. So you look at the Storm, they played.
And you touched on it before,
matches.
like even though they were stripped of that 09 premiership, they were still the 09 premiers. So in 2010, they would have gone into the season as reigning premiers. And like you said, it was a bit of pill to swallow for a lot of league fans because instead of being allowed to accumulate points, obviously they couldn't play semis, but they affected so many results. They didn't. It's not like they went, well, the season's done, we're just going to give up. They affected so many results in this season.
And that's it. That's the bang on, because you look at it. So the Storm, they finished last, right? They had all that. They couldn't accumulate points. They finished last. 24 matches played, 14 wins, 10 losses. That would have put them in fifth. And because they had a bit of a period there too, where I suppose all the hoopla around them losing the points, they did go through a bit of a slump, and then came through the back end and started pumping everyone. Whilst you look at the Dragons were first on 38 competition points with 24 matches played, 17 wins, 7 draws, and the 2 byes. While it was a 3-way shootout for second through fourth. So, yes, for and against does come into play there. So,
you're not going to say the dirty words, are you, for and against?
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone was taking 2s when they didn't need to. But, actually, let's look at it. So, Tina came second. Penrith came second. They each of these 3 teams had 15 wins, 9 losses. So, Penrith had a positive differential of 156. And this is where things get dour after that. The West Tigers finished third. Same again. They had a positive 34 differential. And then the Titans finished fourth on the same points, positive differential of 22. So that is only, what are we talking about there? 12 that's 6 penalty goals difference. Or 6 2-point field goals difference.
Or misconversions.
Or misconversions, true. Just at the moral of the story is the Titans, they were fourth. The Sharks were 15th. If the Titans wanted second, they should have just beaten the Sharks on this occasion today. So anyway, it was a bizarre season. The bottom 4 of the 8 were the Warriors, the Roosters, the Raiders, and Manly. So South narrowly missed out of the finals at Brisbane and Newcastle, while the Sharks somehow finished 14th. That's essentially 15th to the Cowboys. And I think actually we had 18 points. The Cowboys had 14. The Cowboys were dour that year. So, bit of a crazy final series, but this, by and large, if you're going to call it a soft comp, probably an inadvertently soft comp with the Storm stuff, but if you're going to use the Phil Gould line, soft comp it was. But anyway, the record book still showed that the Dragons smashed the Roosters on grand final day and have a premiership to show for it, so that's all that matters, really. But yeah, it was a bit of a strange time. It was all right. Yeah, great. Some cracking finals in that final series, though. Obviously, there was the week one.
There was.
Week 1, Roosters 19, Tigers 15 with that Braithen.
Crazy game.
I remember,
Crazy game, that one.
Fafita had Fafita and Heinington both had blinders for the Tigers that night. Braithen Astor with on the siren field goal from 38 out wide out on the left.
Sideways.
Sideways. Yeah. And actually, not that I'm a Braithen Astor fan, but you hear him interviewed and he talks, very well about that. I suppose his thought, and I suppose he practiced it that many times, and he said it's like you're practicing your backyard, right, to win the grand final or to tie things up on full time or whatever, and to nail that. And he said the moment it was off his boot, and it cleared it by a long way, kind of like Burton the other night, just got hold of it. And then there was the intercept, was a Kenny Dow in the 100 and something minute. Whilst later on the finals too, so. The Dragons beat the Tigers 13-12 to make the grand final, and the Roosters did pump the Gold Coast 32-6 in the prelim. So that was a bit one-sided. But Tigers beat Raiders. Actually, I remember this one distinctly too. Week 2 of the finals, Jared Croker missed a penalty goal to tie it up and send it to Golden Point. And the Tigers won 26-24. So there was some ripper games in there, but you wouldn't say it was the strongest comp quality-wise in that era. So anything more to say about 2010?
Yeah, 2010. You just touched on that game, the Tigers Raiders. I was actually in a pub in Goulburn, finishing up some stuff down there. So I remember watching that one, and that one was crazy as well because that game could have gone either way. There was a few seesawing moments at the end. Obviously, the Anasta sideways field goal. I think it was one of the Tigers players. It's pretty much it. One of the tackles in that game ended his career with one of the big shots in that game as well. Again, it was
that Taniela Tuaki? Was that
no, it wasn't. It was Luco Dwyer.
True.
Yeah. From the shoulder, which he was obviously seeking a bit of compensation after that. But again, a team coming fifth, making the grand final in the old top 8 system was a bit strange for everyone. So again, it doesn't really matter if for and against at that stage. It's whoever wins the top 8. And then, funnily enough, grand final weekend come around, and it was Roosters Dragons, and I took the family to Dubbo for the weekend because I had nothing to do with the grand final whatsoever. I've never seen. I think I've seen one highlight, which is where Morris steps about 5 meters outside the field of play and continues on, and no flag went up. So it's about the only highlight I've seen of that grand final game because I wanted nothing to do with it or hear about it at all. So a bit of sour grapes from me, but the last thing I want to see was a Dragons premiership. So.
You're not wrong.
Other than that, like you said, there was,
I was at that grand final, which was a horrible choice. I did get the members ticket offered to me. Great seats, great day out right up until the second half. And you're right, Morris caught it in, I think it was row 2 or row 3 and scored. And basically behind the touchy, and the touchy's like, oh, nothing to see here, try. Yeah. So anyway, the Dragons won out that one, but we got our revenge in 2016. Thankfully, we'll chat about that another time. But here's the fallout. Great win for the Sharkies, 30 points to 16. Tries Covell, Tim Smith, Luke Douglas, Paul Gallen, Nathan Gardner. Covell 5 from 5 for the boot, while the Titans, Bodine Thompson, and unlikely double Jordan Atkins also scored. Scott Prince 2 from 3. Sharks finished 14th. Gold Coast basically did the reverse, finished 4th. We had 7 wins, 17 losses. They had 15 wins, 9 losses. So that was this episode of the Classic Cronulla Chronicles. That was the ET stand. If you do have any memories of this match, of where you were when Luke Covell ran 500 metres to score and just, I reckon, beat the whole team twice. And I'll let the music fade in. It tends to cut people off there. But we've got a bit of up Cronulla in the background. Thanks again to everyone. Hit the like and subscribe button. But if you were there, if you had any great Luke Covell memories, any Trent Barrett memories, I'm sure there are ones out there. We've lambasted it. But all the spirit fingers for Covell. And Matt Rogers too. Gosh, I don't know if I might need to seek therapy on that one. But still, but anyway, thanks to Ride. Thanks for coming along with this one, Omi Kelly. And if you got anything or any suggestions for next week, we're going to be playing the Tigers of all teams at home. So I'm leaning towards the 2013 win at home. I believe that was the Andrew Fafita double, including the 60-metre run and the lawnmower.
The lawnmower? Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and I think topically we were talking about hot on the heels of Toby Rudolph having a horror game the other night, talking about players that have had horror matches. I think Stewie Mills had an absolute shocker for us at fullback, but I think, I don't know, there's so many variables as you guys touched on in the debrief the other night as to what constitutes a horror game. We won this one against the Titans, and we're going to win the game against the Tigers, whichever one we cover. So thanks, Kelly. Any closing comments from yourself?
No, I'm just glad that one's back in the memory bank. If anyone really wants to go back and see one highlight of 2010 out of 7 wins, go and watch this video, guys. There wasn't too many others to pick from. But yeah, like Matty said, give us some suggestions. There's not much footage out there around in Fox Sports, so we try and do our best to try and relive some of these games, but we obviously want to give you guys some highlights and a bit of positive spin into going to the footy week. So hit us up with some suggestions of ones that you guys enjoyed the most.
I can't believe we didn't pick it up, though. Just in closing comment, we did cover another 2010 game. Myself and Franco did speak about the Eels win at Parramatta that season, which was actually from a viewer comment. I'd completely forgotten that match. So we did cover that one. There were a couple of other good wins in 2010. We beat the Roosters by a big margin at SFS there. We also beat the Roosters at home, and we beat the Eels at home in the wet in Tim Smith's debut game as well. So there was a few highlights, as there always tends to be. I mean, 2014 had five wins in it, all 5 were highlights. So even the bad years have some good stuff in there. So we've got to enjoy the year that we have now. But hit the like and subscribe. And in the meantime, up. Go Sharks.